국내 언론에서 전하지 않는 뉴스, 지금 이 순간 폭스뉴스를 통해 확인하실 수 있습니다.
We're looking forward to the negotiation. I think it's going to be positive. We'll, of course, see. As the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand.
All right, so right now, Vice President J.D. Vance is on his way to Pakistan for a high-stakes summit with Iran tomorrow. The talks will mark the highest-level meeting between U.S. and Iranian officials since 1979. President Trump warning Tehran to take the talks seriously or face further military action. Telling the New York Post, we're loading up the ships. Senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich is reporting live from North Lawn ahead of all of that. Hello, Jackie.
Hey, Sandra. President Trump seems to think that the Iranians have a leg up in the messaging campaign leading into this negotiation. He posted to Truth Social, the Iranians are better at handling the fake news media and public relations than they are at fighting. He also said earlier the Iranians don't seem to realize they have no cards other than a short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways. The only reason they're alive today is to negotiate. This morning, the Iranians appeared to move the goalposts again, claiming that they were told their blocked assets would be released prior to the start of these talks. It is the first time that we've heard that. We are still working to find out from the White House if that was, in fact, mutually agreed to, as the Iranians claimed, or if they are just moving the goalposts again. But that is in addition to their demand that this ceasefire also apply to Lebanon, which officials here said was never part of the deal, but the president made it happen anyway, telling Netanyahu to dial it back a bit in a call. We have not seen President Trump on camera today, but he told the New York Post that this pause can be lifted at any time if he feels the talks aren't going well. And, quote, we have a reset going. We're loading up the ships with the best ammunition, the best weapons ever made, even better than what we did previously, and we blew them apart. But we're loading up the ships. We're loading up the ships with the best weapons ever made. If we don't have a deal, we'll be using them very effectively. So we should see the president in a couple hours here when he heads to Charlottesville for a MAGA Inc. roundtable tonight. And hopefully he'll take some reporter questions on his way out of town, guys.
All right, we will be watching for all of that. Jackie at the White House for us. Thank you, John.
Thanks.
All right, Sandra, let's bring in Nathan Sales, former ambassador at large and counterterrorism coordinator during President Trump's first term. So Iran is going into these negotiations in Pakistan this weekend like they're going into the souk, right? Oh, no. That is not the price that you can pay for this. It's going to be much higher than that. They really don't have a leg to stand on. They've been militarily decimated. Their political leadership is non-existent anymore, save for a couple of people. But they do have a trump card, and that's the Strait of Hormuz. And they are playing it for all it's worth.
Yeah, and they're playing it in a way that violates the terms of the ceasefire. Let's go back and look at what President Trump said in his Truth Social post announcing the deal. He said, we're going to pause bombing subject to Iran with the complete, unconditional, and immediate and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. None of those conditions have been met. They have been serially violating this since the day that the ink was on the paper. And so they're really testing us. This is a test for how the next several weeks and several months are going to go, because if the Iranians conclude that they can get away with it now, that is going to set the stage for them to weasel out of commitments even bigger than this going forward. So it's a test for the president. It's a test for the administration. They've got to hold the Iranians accountable for breaking their word.
Here's what President Trump said on Truth Social in regard to that. Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. This is not the agreement we have. I'm shocked.
Yes. Tell me if you've heard this one. Iranian terrorists lie, right? Yeah. So we all know they're lying. We all know they're not honoring their word. And so now the question is, what do you do about it? We have a couple of cards we could play, the most extreme of which is resume military action. Like, that was what the president threatened. We're going to pause if you meet your obligations. They haven't met their obligations, and so what comes next? The other is to take a very tough line diplomatically in the negotiations in Islamabad and say, all right, we're calling you out. We know that you're lying. We know that you're breaking your word. Here's what we need from you to get this back on track. Otherwise, deal's off.
Yeah, I mean, J.D. Vance alluded to that on his way out the door to get on Air Force Two to go over to Pakistan. Here's what he said. Listen here.
If the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The president has gave us some pretty clear guidelines, and we're going to see.
You know, one of the crucial lines of what the vice president said there is, if they're going to try to play us.
Yeah.
When they try to play us.
Right. Well, look, the president has been very clear that he's ready to walk away from talks if they're not productive. He walked away from the table with the Russians in the first term. He's walked away from the table with the Afghan Taliban during the first term. So the president wants diplomacy, but it's always a give and take with this administration. We're willing to engage in diplomacy, they say, but we also reserve the right to use military force if we can't get our objectives met at the negotiating table. I'd look for a similar play here.
It would seem that, you know, other nations in the Persian Gulf region are fed up with Iran as well. Here's what Amjad Taha, he's an expert from the Emirates on strategic and political affairs, posted on X. He said, for the Trump administration to understand, the Strait of Hormuz is not open. The UAE does not and will never accept the Islamic regime in Iran imposing conditions on access. The UAE is not Britain or the EU. It does not accept any terrorist actor restricting freedom of navigation. Iran really wants to go into these negotiations trying to, you know, cajole the United States into saying, okay, you can have control of the Strait of Hormuz and you could charge a toll. I mean, hopefully the vice president and the president are not going to buy a dime of that.
Yeah, they can't, because if this war ends with Iran in control of the Strait, it's a strategic loss for the United States.
It puts them in a stronger position than they've ever been in before.
We cannot let them be in a stronger position. They have to be in a weaker position. They lost, and they have to know it, and the cards fall accordingly from that.
I mean, you would think that there would be countermeasures that might be installed along the Gulf region to stop Iran from trying to wrest control of the Strait militarily or otherwise, you know, get some minesweepers in there to clear the thing out. Wouldn't that be the way that you go into this negotiations, to say to Iran, you have absolutely no leverage in this, surrender, or we're back at it?
So another move that we can play is to take them at their word. They said the Strait was open. All right, let's act like it. And so we, along with European allies and our other allies, start escorting ships through the Strait and dare them to take a shot at us. They know what's going to happen if they try that.
All right, Nathan, great to have you kick us off this afternoon. Really
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it. Going to be a big day tomorrow.